Hello, friends. This is Alia Jamal, the heart mentor. I'm so used to saying the love coach. And today we are meeting for our Thursday workshop every week. We have restarted doing workshop, and very, very soon we will have a page where all the topics would be there. What I'm doing this time around, I am receiving input from people who have been in my community, who have been following my work for a while. What is something that you would like to learn? So please feel free to submit, send me an email, respond to my email, write a comment wherever you're watching this, and I would love your input. Last week, I taught from a topic of my own, and today I'm teaching from a topic that was recommended, and that is getting unstuck after a big life change or a big life event. So it's going to be an exciting conversation. How can we get unstuck? Now, before we even get deeper into it, what does stuck means to you? We would get unstuck later, but what does stuck means to you? To me, first thing that comes to mind is stagnant. And I personally went through that. It took me a minute to understand what's going on, and those are the 4 points I'm going to share with all of you. It feels stagnant. So a big life change could be loss of a loved one. It could be you got sick, you went through a major surgery. It could be you got married. It could be you're going through divorce. It could be you became a parent, or it could mean you became a parent fourth time, second time. You bought a new home, you moved to a different state. It could be anything. When our physical reality shifts to look like something different, that is a big change. It could be a career change, it could be a job change, or maybe you got laid off. So anytime our physical reality is shifting, there's a jump, whether it feels it's an upward jump or a downward jump, there is a jump. That is when it's a very possible we can feel stagnant. That is a big change. And then you know what it feels? It's almost like there's a part of you that wants to go back. And it's like, oh, this is how I was doing it last year. Oh, this is how I was doing it in my 20s. Why can't I be like that? It's almost like you're comparing your current progress to a version of you that existed in the past. It's always in the past because you have no idea who you're becoming yet. So when you find yourself comparing that, oh, 10 years ago I was able to do it, why can't I do it right now? When those things come up, that is a sign that you're feeling stuck. And now let's unpack how to get unstuck. I believe anyone who's listening, and especially if you're in your 30s or 40s or above, and especially if you're a woman, you can really relate to what stuck feels like. Sometimes that stuckness is so pestering us inside, it is pulling on us that we even end up gaining weight because what we are doing, we cannot change things. So we go towards food, or we just sit there and binge watch TV and we stop working out. And then that stuck is also showing up in our body as well. So, the first thing we are going to talk about, whatever life change we go through, and it could also be like, your kids are grown up and they are moving out. That could be a really big change too. The first thing that changes when a life event happens, a big one, is identity shift. So when your mind says, why can't I be like how I was last year or 10 years ago? That means you have not transferred into a new identity. You're still holding on to the old identity. This is how I was. I was slim, I was fit, I was intelligent, I was quick. Why can't I be all of that? I used to remember, and why can't I remember anything anymore? And I also wants to mention women in their 40s, they're going through menopause. That is a huge, huge change. So a lot of us, we feel stuck in our 40s or mid 40s, and we don't know what's happening because your identity is shifting. And if you're not shifting with it, that is when we feel stuck. So now let's look at what is an identity shift. When you are going through a life change, so trusting if you're listening to it, you are already feeling stuck, you're already going through a life change. Sit down with a piece of paper and make two columns on it. And one would be who you remember yourself to be, right? So you'll write down you were able to wake up early, you were able to hang out with your friends, you were able to do all these things. And right now you're not able to do all of that. And ask yourself, with this new shift, who would you like to be? Or who do you already feel you have become? And write that down. And as you would be writing down, something within you is going to start talking to you that, hey, you're shifting. And now maybe you need to slow down more and give yourself more rest time and maybe give yourself more nap time, or this is what you can expect of yourself. So it does require, getting unstuck does require sitting with yourself and looking at what has shifted, what worked in the past, and it can no longer work now. For example, I'll tell you, I got remarried in 2024. My bedtime used to be 8:30 to 9 p.m. That went out the door. And it took me a long time to get hold of sleeping at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I'm not made for that kind of late hours. That's just not my body. But then there was an identity shift that happened, and my body adapted to that. And then eventually we came to a middle ground, 11. Also, my son is growing older. He does not like to go to bed at 8 p.m. He wants to go to bed at 10 p.m. So that is an identity shift right there. Now, this is something small, but look at your life if you have lost a loved one, if you have moved away from your family. Your family used to be there to entertain you, and you didn't have to entertain yourself. What are you going to do now? So the question you're going to write on the top, who I can no longer be. And that is, we have a friend joining. I am going to very quickly let them in and also change to, okay, wonderful. So, who you can no longer be, whether you are going through a very happy change or whether you're going through a not so happy change, when you will write on the top who I can no longer be, you will know what is the new identity that is being born through you. And the way identity shift, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like tonight you go to sleep and you're one person and tomorrow you're going to be a completely different person. Like today you were single and tomorrow you're married, and right away the identity shift happens because those are unconscious expectations of that you have of yourself. So yesterday you expected yourself to be out and about and having fun with other people, and today let's say you became a mom and now you cannot do that. And especially becoming a mom, there's a huge identity shift. So, what is it that you no longer can uphold? And it must change. When you take yourself through that exercise, what is no longer working, or what is it that you can no longer become, you will become more familiar with the new identity that is being born through you, or you can create that identity yourself. I like to create the identity myself. I like to create my life one day at a time. So you can write down, who do you want to be? How do you want to carve out time for yourself? So this does require having a little bit of awareness of what is it that you require to survive and to sustain and also to thrive. Now, survive would be you definitely need food and water, high quality food and high quality water and sleep. Um, and sustain would be like, what are the things that are going to maintain you in that? Some people need other people's company, some people need time to read or to be able to do something meaningful. And then what is it that you need to thrive, to really be able to bring more out of you into the life? So look at your identity shift. And again, if you need help, you can always reach out to me. It's going to be just one session and I can help you work through the identity shift and what needs to shift within you right now. So if you have not looked at the identity, your own self-image that is shifting, you're going to feel stuck. And it can be a decade. You will still feel stuck because you never shifted. There's so many people when their kids move out of home or they go through divorce, they never went through the identity shift and they still, after 10 years, feel stuck in their divorce, stuck in that life change. And sometimes the bitterness take over because we start resenting ourselves internally and we're not even aware of it. The second thing that is very, very challenging, and especially for those of us who are highly motivated and we call ourselves go-getters and we just love to make things happen, and that is the what's next mindset. You just had a baby and your mind is like, okay, what's next? How can I be out and about? How can I go back to my old body? You just moved to a new home. Maybe you bought your first home and your mind is like, what's next? When am I going to decorate the whole thing? Or like me, you just got remarried. Now you have a kid and the kid has a stepdad and you're like, okay, when are we going to become a family unit? Right? We are conditioned that things need to be instant. Change needs to be instant. Things need to settle down instantly. But my friend, that is not how reality shifts. Things move. The energy shift might be instant, but the physical shift takes time. And we praise the what's next mentality. We love to see pictures of women who would say, I had a kid yesterday, and look, my weight is already this many pounds down. I saw somebody posted on Facebook that, they had a miscarriage yesterday and they didn't give in to binge eating. And a lot of people were, of course, grieving with the person and also praising that. And to me, and I could be completely wrong looking at it that way, but to me, there was a lot of pressure we put on ourselves. We put ourselves in so many boxes and in so many walls, and there's no room to breathe. To me, that feels suffocating. So, whatever you want next, whatever is next on your list that you want to happen yesterday, sit with it, breathe with it and ask yourself, is it possible that I can release this pressure? Is it possible that I can release the pressure of fixing my home right now, fixing my relationship right now, fixing my body right now? And my friend, to the way we've been conditioned, it might seem to you it's very counterproductive because we love productivity. Like we get trained in the corporate to have a Excel sheet and to be able to monitor all these projects, and then we start applying that on our life too. But you're not a project. I know you look at yourself, you're a project in the making. You're also a human being with so many different aspects to you. Some parts are healed, some are not, some you never even looked at, some you have abandoned yourself and you're not even aware. And maybe you're still stuck from the last life change that you went through. So we cannot really look at ourselves as a black and white. The more you let go of what's next mindset, the easier it will be to get unstuck. when I noticed that within me, so it was, I would say, 3 to 4 months after my marriage, and I was trying to get back to how my routine used to be. That is when I gave myself 2 years. I said, for 2 years, you're not going to try to control your routine. You're not trying to make things go back to how they used to be. For 2 years, just let it be. 2 years is a good number for me. It was able to calm down my nervous system. Whatever you're going through, how long can you give yourself before you get on your case and you're being like breathing down your neck and you're like, it needs to happen right now? You'll be surprised when you create that space, the particles can come together and they can show you who you're becoming. When we hold ourselves hostage of our ideal way of living or being, when we are going through a big life shift, that is when we get stuck. Because it's almost like, something is stuck and you're pulling on it. One of the example that comes to my mind, when someone gets stuck in quicksand, it's better not to pull. I believe it is quicksand. The more we pull, the more they get stuck. So, but when they let go, it's easier for them to come out. That is how stuck energy feels like because everything is shifting, everything is shifting. You don't know which part is where. And then you want to make it look like certain way. But if you pause, you expand and you relax a little bit and you let life show you who you're becoming, what your next role is going to be, those particles have time to come together and show you. And that is one of the hardest thing you will do where you'll surrender and not go to what's next. So you can come up with your number, what that would be, like 2 months, it could be 2 years, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 6 months. What is that number that you would let yourself breathe and not go to what's next? And maybe that could be a lifestyle that you bring into your life where you ditch the what's next mentality or mindset and you start to create who am I becoming? Especially when you're going through a big life change. Eh, When our kids go into teenage years or they're becoming adult, we're still holding on to who they were when they were 8-year-old. So if we give ourselves some room and don't just stick to what's next, who do I want this kid to be next, it becomes so much easier. So the first thing we talked about is identity shift, evaluate that. And second, watch for what's next, where you're pressuring yourself to become something, or you are comparing yourself with other people. You're judging yourself because you're not really matching up to the box that you thought you should be matching up to. That is where we can really create that flow and we start to feel unstuck. Now, the third thing is inviting curiosity. If you really want to get unstuck, invite curiosity and become aware of what within you is shifting. What part within you is shifting? What life aspect within you is shifting? Maybe your face is not shifting. Your face looks the same from this year to the next year, but maybe after 10 years it will be different. But is there an aspect within you that is shifting? Is there is there something about your body that is shifting? Is there something about your behavior that is shifting? Maybe you used to be extrovert, but now you're becoming introvert. When you pinpoint what is that part within you that is changing, that is when it becomes easier to control. But this does require curiosity. See, the second point we talked about, that is where you are micromanaging. You want the change and you want it now. So when you stop micromanaging, the third thing is you start looking at yourself. What is it that's changing within you? Maybe you're in a new area and you're really missing your friends. And maybe for the first 6 months, you don't even want new friends. Or maybe you now have realized you really do want new friendships. What is that part of you? How are you going to approach that part of you instead of telling yourself, oh, you cannot make friends in your adult life? Maybe it's the way you're eating. For example, I can tell you any woman who go to premenopause and into menopause, you can no longer eat the way you ate in your 30s. So it's the eating habits within you because your body needs change a lot. That is requiring shift, but you're still eating. You're still skipping breakfast like you were in your early 20s. You're still drinking or eating things that are not serving or sustaining your body, or they are not repairing your body, or something that is not good for your hormones. And as I went through my identity shift and being able to create that space for myself, I did a lot of deep digging. What part within me was shifting and changing? And there were a lot of parts, and they all needed their own time, their own attention, their own space to expand and grow. I like to talk to different parts of me. There are 5 different parts of me that I talk to on continual basis, and we have very long conversations. That is how I keep that inner authority intact within me. So other people are not running the show. I get to run the show. But those parts change. What is the part within you as you're going through this life shift that is changing? What what new things are being born through you? Maybe a part that has been completely dormant and now it's getting activated. And I have seen that there's something within me that was dormant since I was 15. It just came to life. It felt so weird and different to let this part come out and be fully present. When you would again look inward, you're not going to feel stuck. You're going to get back to flow. We feel stuck when we think I should be here and I'm not here. Why I'm not there. Another major part of feeling stuck is lack of clarity. And you might say, no, Alia, I have clarity. I just moved into a home and this is what's going on. And, or I just got into a new relationship. I just had another baby. I just went through a career change and I do have clarity. That is logical clarity. Our unconscious mind doesn't know who you're becoming. It doesn't know how long you're going to stay in this home, how it will feel to be here. So it needs time to know all the answers. You might say, oh, it's just fear showing up. That's why I feel stuck. Fear also shows up when we don't know who we are becoming. We don't know how our life would be. So again, when you step back a little bit and you just take a few deep breaths for a few weeks or a few months, life starts to become very clear to you and you start to connect with that clarity and it becomes easier. And now the fourth part, and that is be present with yourself and with your body. My friend, if you take nothing else and you take just this, you will be able to get unstuck no matter what, no matter what is going on. When there's a physical shift in your life, the first thing that we feel, there's a frozen feeling in our body. Even if it's a good shift, even if you just found the love of your life, you just had your new baby, there's something that feels frozen within your body. We call it fear, we call it doubt, we call it confusion, we call it all kind of things. But there's a physical shift and your body's trying to calibrate to that. In that moment, when we stay present with this is the shift I'm going through, and we move our body. Now, that could mean you take deep breaths. You're taking control of what's happening in your body. That could mean you're going for long walks alone. Don't take anyone with you. If you're feeling stuck, highly recommend go for solo walks. It could mean that you are actually doing heavy core, hardcore physical activity. It could mean any of that. But when you connect with your body and you're present with that, it's almost like floor is lava, everything is shifting. You get hold of it. You get hold of your reality. And it's amazing if you can wake up in the morning and just go out of the house. That's exactly what I did. When I started to feel stuck and all this thing was coming up, if I woke up at 4:30, if I woke up at 5 a.m., if I woke up 5:30, 7 a.m., I got up, didn't even wash my face, just dressed and went out of the house. And I walked for at least 20 to 30 minutes. It was so easy to get hold of the changes that were going on. And I went through pretty deep grief, good changes and bad changes. And my friend, it was so easy to get to that place where I didn't feel stuck anymore because I started walking first thing I woke up. It's something very, very small, highly recommended. If you cannot go out and walk, take deep breaths. As soon as you wake up, close your eyes, put your hand on your belly, take a very deep 10 breaths. That's all. Then go to the bathroom, then talk to anyone else. That is when you check up on the kids or what you're making for breakfast. When you start to connect with the physical part of you, you don't feel stuck anymore in whatever change that is happening. If you're not in control of your physical body, there's zero activity, there's only activity in your mind. That is when we really feel stuck because then there's no clarity. When we move our body, we come back into our body. We're not just floating around up above and feeling uncertain. You fully come back into your body. That is when you can become curious. Okay, these parts within me are shifting. That is when you become curious that what kind of conscious shift you would like to bring in, what kind of conscious identity shift you would like to bring in. That is when you can work through all of this. So I'll just recap one more time. When we feel stuck going through a big life shifts, that means we don't have clarity to who we are becoming or who we are supposed to become or where this whole life is going. To get unstuck, we create space for ourselves. Give yourself a timeline that I'm going to allow myself this many months, this many years to move into this new version of me. And then work on what is the identity that is no longer true. For example, one of the identity that was no longer true within me that had to 100% be released, and that was worrying about other people' opinion, being a people pleaser. Like that people pleaser had to be 100% dormant for this new reality to feel comfortable. I was feeling stuck because people pleasing was still active, let's say 5%. That had to completely disappear. There's so many other layers that had to completely disappear. Um, and then I stopped rushing myself. I became curious, like, what are these shifts that are happening? And then I was able to get myself to go out. So wherever you are, start with taking hold of your physical body, whether it's walking, whether it's breathing. It could also be just eat really good. Become curious about what is it that you're putting in your body. And then look at your life. How long can you give yourself for this identity shift? What identity no longer work? What is the new identity being born? And I can guarantee you, my friend, within a week of doing these things that we talked about, you're going to start feeling you're not stuck anymore because stuck is a mental state and it exists because everything is jumbled up. When you create that flow in your life, that flow in your day, you don't feel stuck anymore. So, trusting that this has helped, especially to the person who has asked for this topic, trusting it has helped everybody else. If you feel stuck in your life and you have no idea what to do, you can always reach out to me. I would love to be your guide in helping you create a very different version of you that matches with the changes that you're going through in your life. With that, we are ending and we will not be meeting for 2 weeks and then we'll be back. And that is when things are going to be more organized. And I'm looking forward to serving you all, teaching you everything that I get to learn. I would say I'm privileged, I'm blessed to learn. I am dedicating this year to be able to teach 100% and pass on that wisdom to all of you so your life can become more heart centered, more aligned with your soul, and full of joys. I'm sending you so much love. Bye.